All right, here we go. Hello and welcome to Dog Hugs. Robbie.
Hi, Spider.
Great to see you.
Hi, Larry.
Hi, Larry. Hi, Robbie. Hi, everybody. Welcome.
Spider just waiting for that snack.
You know the theme music now. You know.
Oh my gosh, he's a smart guy.
In just a moment, we're going to jump right into today's wonderful interview with our guests. It reminds me that every dog can be rehabilitated. And while I get Spider going with his tough tongue, why don't you lead us into this wonderful interview?
So absolutely, I would love to once again share a great friend of mine. I'm so lucky, all the people that I get a chance to meet through the dog industry, including, I should say pet industry, including the two people that are on the show with me today and that I love sharing this space with. Also, before I jump into that, you can see that Spider really loves this frozen Kong with all stuffed with his treats. It's a really great way to distract him during the show so he can focus on that while we talk about him. Because we are talking about him often.
We are talking about him. Yeah, he has been rehabilitated, and there's so many dogs that can be rehabilitated. I mean, we've all three of us have experienced amazement. And today, here's the ultimate rehabilitation story. We're going to meet Frankl, who was rescued from the dog meat trade. And Frankl's story is truly amazing. It's a real story in redemption. And now, let's go ahead and meet Frankl.
So you're a journalist. Tell me about your journalist story. This is incredible to me. So please share.
So I write for a service called Singer, which is like a Reuters, AP, one of the wire services. And this particular one ended up in Newsweek. And it's really just about hero dogs. And from a different perspective, I'm someone that does a lot of profiles of humans. I like to see what makes people tick, get the empathy down. And, you know, as far as that seeing your dog in this dog, the mirroring, telling the dog's real story of what happened versus just talking about what the actual issue was with China dog meat. Well, people know about that, and you shy away from those pictures. You don't want to see dog meat. You don't want to see these dogs that have just died. But Frankl, you get this wonderful, cute picture of a dog that you can literally see as your dog. And it brought it to a place where even I understood the dog meat trade so much better, that these dogs get diseases that could harm humans if they were eaten. The story of Frankl, what it took to get him here, I wouldn't have understood that the same way if I had done it through if I had just read something about the facts about the dog meat trade or had to be distracted by some of the pictures, which are great for people that don't know it exists. But for the rest of us, it can be a bit distracting. So I was really glad to see Frankl's story.
An amazing story.
Why don't we just bring in right now the subject of your amazing story?
Because this doesn't just...
Let's bring in Frankl here. Welcome, Kimberly Wright and Frankl.
Hi, Kimberly.
Yes. Grab this guy again. Do you see the resemblance?
Very
Oh, be still my beating heart.
This is mirroring. This is like relatability. You see this dog and you want to save other dogs.
Tell us about Frankl.
Well, when he first came to live with me, it was quite just incredibly sad. He would lay on his side. He had been kept in a cage that was very low and he couldn't stand up. So he mostly, for 3 days, he would just lay on his side and not move. And like Reyna said, he would pee on a pee pad because he obviously was used to peeing on the floor, but then he would consistently try to drink it. He did not understand what a water bowl was at all. And slowly, I just gave him his time and his space, and he just came out of his shell, and he had a true healing power. I had recently lost my other schnauzer, and I was incredibly despondent. And when Frankl was given to me, I saw him heal, and through watching his healing process, I realized he had such an incredible ability to heal. And so now, he's like a little mayor for other dogs. His personality is incredibly loving. He's got a wild spirit to him. And he really just enjoys taking other dogs into our homes and bringing out their wild sides and their spirits and their happiness. He's been incredibly resilient, and I'm so insanely grateful to have him in my life.
Can you talk about that training journey? I mean, that's really extraordinary to see that a dog could come from that kind of abuse to being of service in the world.
I wish I could tell you it was me, but it wasn't. It was all him. I just had to give him the space to decompress and to feel safe being exactly who he was. And in doing that, he just had this freedom to, fully self-express him and to be fully self-expressed. And I figured, it's interesting. It wasn't a training thing as much as it was a recognition thing, and recognizing he really wanted to be around other animals. And so, we do a lot of fostering, and when a foster is not responsive to me at all, I just let Frank be who he is. And Frank, I follow Frank's lead. It's not something I really taught him.
You've worked with other mini schnauzers before.
So I was a mini schnauzer fanatic. We, prior to becoming woke, I bought my mini schnauzer. I had her from the time I was 23 to 37. Losing her, it was devastating. And I stumbled across Animal Hope and Wellness's Instagram page, and because I've always been into rescue and fostering, but I saw that he had posted a picture of these animals coming from China, and in one of those photos was Frank. And I thought, there's no, I don't know if you can hear that barking. There's no way that a purebred miniature schnauzer is in the dog meat trade. And so I reached out to Mark and I said, is that a miniature schnauzer? And for whatever reason, it started a conversation about the fact that there are these purebred dogs who are in the dog meat trade, and that which is something I never imagined. I always thought, this is terrible, but it's terrible still. But I always imagined it was like the edible dog. Like maybe there's a dog out there that's somehow the equivalent of a cow, which I don't eat cows either, but. To see that there are these purebred dogs that are being either stolen or sold into dog meat, it just sparked this curiosity and something just ignited in me. And when Frank came to the United States, Mark had invited me to this welcome home event. And he put Frank in my arms and said, "Here's your dog." And at that time, I was not ready at all. But like I said, Frank had this healing power. I had just lost my best friend of 14 years, and Sasha, my prior schnauzer, She went to law school with me. She went to every job I ever had with me. I thought there's no way that I'm ever going to be able to have another Schnauzer who could possibly compare. But the healing power of Frank, I mean, he just came in and said, "Oh, you haven't seen anything yet." So, he's proven to me that, my love for Schnauzers, it's still there. But
we're hearing another dog in the background. And how's Frank doing with your other dog, and how's your other dog doing with Frank?
My other dog is a 120-pound Saint Bernard Shepherd mix. He's ruled by Frank.
He loves everybody, right?
It's actually quite funny because the other dog's name is Daniel, and Daniel is, like I said, 120 pounds, but he's actually an insecure dog. And so again, I've gotten this opportunity to see this 9-pound Schnauzer come into our lives and teach our 120-pound, ginormous dog, to be confident and relaxed. I mean, Frank, there's just something about Frank, which brings me to the Instagram page. I had promised Mark Chang of Animal Hope and Wellness that I would bring honor to all the efforts he made and the terrible, things he endured in having to rescue Frank from a slaughterhouse in China. That I said I would bring, awareness to Frank and his life and where he comes from. And that's why we started the Instagram page. And that's why I continue to foster, because Frank just has this healing power and personality that brings out the best in people and other animals.
Who named Frank Frank?
So along those lines, when I was thinking about the name I would give him, because he was originally called Clyde by Animal Hope and Wellness, Mark. And I wanted a name that would be strong and truly represent, his plight. And so, of course, I found Man's Search for Meaning and Viktor Frankl, who
one of my favorite books.
Mine too.
Mine 3.
And, yeah. If you have a beating heart, you probably should love Man's Search for Meaning.
Of course.
But I wanted, to bring honor to the idea of having, lived in such horror, but yet still have your positive spirit. And Frank really embodied that for me. And so I thought Frankl would be a great name.
So my father and my grandfather are named Frank.
Oh.
So it's a very strong name, great choice, and great work. Everything you're doing, you are just being rained down on with joy and love and happiness for such a great choice. Great move. And we're really proud of everything that you've done for Frankl.
Well, it's an honor to have him.
What attracts you to the breed?
Schnauzers are, I can't even begin to describe the personality of a Schnauzer. You don't own a Schnauzer. A Schnauzer owns you.
They own you.
My female Schnauzer, she was my guidepost. She was, I was 23 years old when I got her, and I had just moved home from New York City, and she grounded me. And interestingly enough, as I grew and matured and Frank came into my life, Frank is an incredible little love bug. And what's so incredible about the Schnauzer is that they tell you what they need. Frank will legitimately ask me for things, whether that's pawing at my face or barking or, the communication. It's just, it doesn't stop. And so that level of connection, he's not a dog to go sit in a corner. He wants to interact, which again, I think is what makes him such a healer.
Mm-hmm.
He's constantly.
And why they're so popular, right? That's why they're so popular as a breed across the world,
not only are they great communicators, they are guard dogs, and they're a team player. So they love to lead, but they love to check in all the time. So they lead and they check in, and they lead and they check in, which to me is one of the traits of a great leader, and one of the reasons why he's been such a great survivor. How has he changed your thought process and your mission of life in general? Because this is such a profound moment. I've actually helped rescue dogs from other countries before, kind of smuggle them in. We'll talk about that later. So I know how you feel. But tell me,
the statute of limitations.
Yes, I can't go to jail for it now. But I definitely understand the process. So I'd love to hear how he's changed your thought process and maybe your life mission, not just your dog mission, but your life mission.
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I don't know if I would say he changed my life mission as much as he solidified what was already inside of me. The level of compassion I have for animals' experiences has definitely deepened. His existence has caused me to question, my own choices when it comes to, the foods that I eat. How do you define, and this is very academic, I am a lawyer, so my mind does have a tendency to go very deep into thought, but, how do we decide what is edible and what is not? We call the foods that we eat appropriate for consumption, but with a dog like Frank, where he came from, some people believed that he was appropriate for consumption. So it really has caused me to question, what and how we define certain things in our lives. But he elevates me to have more compassion than I thought that I either should or could have. And I would say that was the biggest impact he's had.
What I want to do is bring Reyna into the story and have Reyna do a little bit of the interviewing.
Absolutely.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I think is that you would think he would be so traumatized. Like his brother and his sister did, I will say it nicely, did end up being in the dog meat trade. And he, I'm sure, witnessed some of those things happening to other dogs. How do you think that affected him long term?
Long term, I don't think it has at all. One of the beneficial things about Frank's rescue is how young he was. So, I think when Mark found him, he might have been, I believe it was somewhere between 3 and 4 months old. And so, he obviously has been living longer outside of the dog meat trade than he ever lived inside of it. But I also think it's his resilience. I've made sure that anything he's ever experienced could never remind him of those days. He's had complete freedom. He has access to food when he wants it, and water and toys. And, I've probably let him run amok too much to give him that freedom so that he forgets. But, even there have been certain people we've encountered in public where I thought, is he going to be frightened of this person, whether it's a man, because I do know that the individual he was with was a man. And no, he runs up to every person. He jumps on anyone who he can. He just, his ability to forgive. I mean, it's truly inspiring. So fortunately, I can say I don't see any effects anymore.
So 2 of the things that, that we talked about before, ask the first question. One of the things I remember that you did with Frankl is that you'd hold him close to your chest. You wanted to make sure that he knew right away that he was loved and safe and comfortable, probably partly because of his background. And kind of how I'd really love for you to share with the audience how that he was able to transfer that love for you and connection with you to show other dogs that you are okay and people are okay, especially the Josie story.
So you are correct. When I first brought Frank home, when I would hold him, and I tried to hold him a lot, it was always on my chest. I mean, even to this day, if I'm laying down or when we're sleeping, he is right here next to me. And I wanted him to feel that closeness, and I wanted to develop that bond with him. That safety was being close to me. And it worked. I mean, and I would say the first 6 months, if you ever saw me and Frank, it was always me holding Frank. And I've seen that relationship be effective with our fosters. So we recently had a foster puppy. She might have been about 11 or 12 weeks old. We called her Joan of Bark, and she would not let me touch her. And when I tell you not let me touch her, I mean, she would attack me if I just put a finger on her body. And she was essentially escaped into our second bathroom, which has a like a walk-in shower. There's no like lid on this shower. It's just glass doors in a corner essentially that are open, glass walls. And she pushed herself into that corner, head down, completely withdrawn. And if I sat next to her and I just put my hand in her direction, she would tremble like I was going to beat her. It was clear this dog had never had any type of affection shown towards her. She had never been handled by a human, and it was incredibly frustrating. I'm a very experienced foster, and the fact that this dog would not even let me near her was destroying me. So I didn't know what to do. And I thought to myself, I don't know what to do, but I know who does. And so I went and I got Frank and I brought him in and I let Frank interact with me. So I put him on my lap, and when Frank wants attention, he will paw at you. So he will touch your hand, he'll touch your face, which communicates to me he wants kisses or he wants pets. And so I sat with Frank on my lap, and Frank asking for my attention and my affection while Joni would look at us. And goodness, I must have sat there in increments of an hour throughout the entire day, just with her watching Frank ask for attention from me. And sure enough, by the end of the day, I went from being able to just touch her to, like petting her, to then holding her. And it was all because Frank was showing her, it's okay, she's okay. She can do this to me. She can pet you, she can hold you. And I mean, that transformation was extraordinary. And Joni had 2 other siblings that were in 2 different foster homes, and they did not advance as rapidly as she did. And it's all because of Frank.
What do you do when it comes to training and to give him his freedom to be Frankl?
This is such a great question. I overtrained my prior schnauzer, Sasha. She went to an academy. She lived there with her brother for, goodness, it was something like 4 or 5 weeks. And there was something, she was insanely obedient. I could walk down Sunset Boulevard with her off leash and she would never leave my side. With Frankl, having obviously been inspired by where he had come from and choosing to allow him his freedom, I also had to recognize I'm not going to walk down the street off leash with Frankl. I don't trust him to that level. But I'd let him share with me what his personality is, and I learn what his limits are. Like, I will not walk down the street with him because he will run up to every human he sees and probably darting across the street. But, you know, he's a wild child at home. He's not destructive at all. Not at all. So I don't feel that I need to train him to be this incredibly obedient dog at home, because he's obedient. He knows his, sit and stay and come when he wants. But in public, it's just another one of those natural ways of being. My husband often remarks when we're in public, or when we were in public with Frank, we would go to a restaurant and I could sit him on the chair next to me and he'll sit there as incredibly well behaved as you can imagine. And that's just him. And I think a lot of that has to do with, taking him wherever I went when he was young. So he has understood you can act like a little wild man at home, but when you're in public, you're a well-behaved gentleman. And it's not as much training as it is recognizing his personality and striking a balance between letting him be who he is and him understanding you can't be a wild man wherever you go.
Right. And thank you, Reyna, for reining in all this great information to demonstrate to the world how we can save all those pets that are out there that are really in a bad position that not everyone's aware of. I think more people are aware of now than ever, but this is a really great way to help save those pets. Oh my goodness. So I'm tingling. Larry, are you tingling?
This is amazing. It's going to be very easy. My guess is that there's a shelter shout out probably on the tips of your lips. Who would be your shelter shout out today?
Who paid it once?
Sure, go right ahead.
All right, on the count of three, we're going to say it together. 1, 2, 3. Animal
Hope and Wellness Foundation.
That's great.
Can I say one lasting thing that I really want to get across?
Of course.
These dogs, whether it's a shelter dog or it's a dog from the dog meat trade, they are not broken. They are incredible dogs, resilient dogs. And I want, everybody to consider, giving up the fear that a dog that has been in these situations is a bad dog or a broken dog or a difficult dog. It's so not true. Frank came from the worst of circumstances and he is the best of dog. And so, please go to your shelter, go to, wherever. These dogs are just as worthy and loving as any other purebred, breeder dog you can find.
I am so grateful for the bravery of all those like Kimberly to bring those pets and not be afraid that those issues are insurmountable, because they're not.
The myth is that homeless dogs are forever broken. And the truth is that they're just scared. And
right. Spider's a perfect example.
Our job is to get on our tools. Chief among them is patience and love.
And I think, too, to remember, as we've all gone through some sort of trauma in our lives, and is that getting to know your dog is probably the thing that I think saves the most dogs from even being in shelters, because when they're a part of your life, when you're accepting them for all their beings, not only do you get so much more joy from not just saying, my dog is this wonderful creature I just tell to sit and stay, to, wow, look at how my dog observes things. Look at how my dog gives therapy to humans or other dogs.
Reyna, Kimberly, Dog Hugs is all about gratitude and blessing. is there somebody in your life or in the world who you'd love to give a blessing to, show some gratitude to today?
I want to always thank Mark Chang of the Animal Health and Wellness Foundation for everything he went through to expose the dog meat trade and bring Frank into my life. But I would also like to thank Reyna, because she recognized Frank's story and chose to highlight it to make sure that his story and stories like his are continuing to be remembered. So thank you for your acknowledgement. I'm so grateful for you, Reyna. You're a phenomenal human being, an incredible journalist, and just you have a beautiful soul, and I'm grateful for you.
Thank you. And of course, you inspired me so much, Kimberly, with what you did with Frankl, and just really even further, like profiling dogs. And I love doing this story because it's not often that you do an investigative piece almost that highlights a schnauzer and besides male. And I'd also like to thank Geraldine for bringing me here, for being an inspiration in the dog world, in the personal world, just everything, just amazing people. And I think the final thing is I want to thank Stephen, and just the fact that I didn't have a bad COVID. I was empowered. I volunteered every day, and there is nothing more important at this time than thinking about what you can do for other people and other dogs. Because when there's a crisis and you're healthy and you have a good immune system and you can help others, that's what we should all be doing.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, does that open your heart or what? Let's go right into our.
Before we dive right into the shelter, before we dive in,
yes.
One quick thing is a lot of people don't realize that other countries view animals in a different way. They completely think that other countries think like we think. And a couple of examples are China. They just recently have started changing the status of dogs from livestock to companion pet. And and there's always going to be a minority that don't change their mind, but they're making great strides. So we should be proud of China for that, especially because I know USA had a strong hand in that.
Amen.
So that's just a quick example before we go into our shelter shout out, because it's important for us to look at things from other countries' frames of mind. And we at Dog Hugs are making a difference in how other countries are going to view pets as well. We are on a mission, and I have a little tiny mission, obviously, that it's going to help with some of that. Larry and I are teaming up, and Robbie, of course, always helps with our awesome missions. Yay!
Well said.
So that was a major, wonderful, heart-touching interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shelter shout out as we sit on the interview on 3. Should we all
3, 2, 1.
Animal Hope and Wellness
Foundation. Thank you, Mark, and all of your team for everything that you do to help with not just dogs that come in from other countries, but dogs right there in good old LA and surrounding areas.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting him in person here in Los Angeles someday.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Nice.
Gratitude, blessings. Who's on my heart today is my good friend Gary Steiner. He's an animal philosopher at Bucknell College, and they're actually reckoning with classes right now. It was Gary's birthday last week, and we had a little Zoom gathering on his behalf, but he's somebody we'll have on the show in the future, Gary Steiner. Yeah. And I'm hearing Apple in the background somewhere.
I'm grateful when Atlas chooses quieter toys when we're not doing it.
I'm grateful for the humor.
It's his tool chest.
Perfect timing, Atlas. Wait to hit your cues, buddy.
He's good.
And you know, I'll throw out my gratitude. I know it's going to sound really strange to you all, maybe a little, but I'm really grateful for my dog, all my dogs, but I'm really grateful for Senna coming from Brazil. You know, there are more wild dogs than there are children in Brazil right now, and his existence and coming into my life helped open my eyes into the problem that the whole world faces when it comes to just what China went through. What do you do with those extra dogs? How do you rescue them? And how do you make them an important part of your life? So I think I'm really grateful for Senna opening my eyes to the world of what we can do to bring people together through dogs. It's a thing. It happens to us every day when we go out and walk and go places, and stories like Frankl's, where we are able to rescue a dog that would have been in an area we didn't want, you know, in a space we would never put a dog. So I'm so grateful for that eye opening, and I'm so grateful for him. I just love to snuggle with him every day.
So cute with his little shirt.
Well, thank you so much, Kimberly Wright and Reyna Gobel, for bringing Frankl's story to Dog Hugs here. Thank all of you for joining us today. Big hug to all y'all.
Thank you very much.
We look forward to seeing you again for another great show tomorrow.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Bye.